I thought I would dress up for this one, so here we are. Hebrews 11, 13 through 16. Charles Spurgeon called this passage an inscription for the mausoleum of the saints. So if you think about it, if you ever been to a graveyard, I ran cross country in high school, we always ran to the graveyard in St. Elmo. So if you go there, sometimes on different tombstones, there'll be different quotes, little words about just the person who died. And here we have what would be on the tombstone of each one of the saints. Describes each one of the people we've talked about before, and it's sort of like a halftime speech that the author of Hebrews is giving here for the entire chapter. So let me read Hebrews 11, 13 through 16. All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they are foreigners and strangers on earth. People who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country they had left, they would have had the opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. Ephesians 2:19, another verse to add on. So then you are no longer strangers and aliens, but you are citizens with the saints and also members of the household of God. 1 Peter 2, another one. But beloved, I urge you as aliens and exiles to abstain from the desires of the flesh that wage war against the soul. And then John 8:56, your ancestor Abraham rejoiced that he would see my day, the day of Jesus. He saw it and was glad. So the inheritance of the patriarchs was fixed and invisible. They didn't see it. It was fixed at some time in the future. And it's for two reasons. It was heavenly. It wasn't earthly. Their promise was future. They did not receive the full benefit of the blessing that God promised them because it was heavenly. They received it when they died. And then secondly, it was future. Only partially did they receive the blessings that God had promised them. Abraham, it says, saw Christ. That John 8:56 passage, Abraham sees Christ. He saw the day where Christ would come. All the heirs of salvation, so that includes us today, because we are Abraham's offspring, we are homeless and we are refugees on this earth, because until Christ returns again, we are exiles on earth. This world is not our home. We are called to be in the world, but not of the world, because our citizenship is in heaven. That's what Ephesians says. God is called their God, and he's called our God as well. They will be my people, I will be their God. That's what God says. And this isn't just, we have little gods that we believe in and that we trust in. But this is what God is called ultimate here. God is their God. God delights to be called their God. We have received the beginning of the promise. They barely received the promise. They saw it, but they never received it. But we have received the beginning of the promise, and that's the seal of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit gives us a foretaste of what is to come. If you think about the first bite of a meal, you're really hungry, the first bite of the meal is so good, and it's awesome, but it's just a foretaste of what's to come. It's like an appetizer, a really good appetizer. Mozzarella sticks or queso at a Mexican restaurant. It's a foretaste of what is to come. And that's what the Spirit is. It's a guarantee and a promise of the things that are to come, which is communion with God that Enoch had. That is what's to come. We can always go back. Before we were Christians, there's a life of sin that we leave. You can look back and you can see that, or you can keep looking ahead and you can keep going forward towards the homeland. They are seeking that homeland. They're not looking back. They're going straight ahead. And then because they don't look back, because they keep looking forward, God is not afraid to call them their people. And of course, we're not talking about being saved by works here. It's not because they looked back, they get that. God is working in them, working faith in them, the faith that doesn't look back to their past life, and the faith that looks forward to our future homeland that is with God. And then finally, when it says dying in faith, it's more than just a deathbed conversion. These are people who lived faithful lives, and they kept that faith unto death. They persevered to the end, and in life and in death, they were faithful to God. So, application, see yourselves as exiles in this earth. It's not something that's easy. It's not something that I like to do. We're young. We have a future. Like, most people want to get married. They want to go to college. They want to get a job. They want to have a family. And that's something that I want too. And it's something that's good and that we should want. But it should not be our ultimate goal. Our ultimate longing should be for our ultimate home. And that is with Christ. So seek the homeland. Calling God our God. We are his people. He is our God. And we need to be constantly reminded of that though there are little things in this earth that we call gods, they aren't ultimate. And the only thing that is God. Finally, desire a better country. Kind of going back to exiles on earth. We need to desire something better in this life. The things that on this life that are good, like having a future, going to college, getting married, having kids, they're good, but there's something better out there for us. And it's something that God calls us to. It's something that Jesus will bring us when he returns. So desire a better country.